people are always trying to reach out, like all the time. They always want to. They're not just sitting around not interested in your life. And so if you want your grandpa to reach out to you in a specific way, and it would have to be rare enough that you know you're not going to see it just every day. It'd probably be weird if you saw it even occasionally. What would it be?
Hello, you have a minute?
Hi. Yeah, I do.
All right. So we were talking about questions, but that's not what we're talking about.
No.
Questions are dumb.
So I was wondering, okay, so I'm listening to this book called Signs, Signals from the Universe or something like that. Anyway.
Signs.
It's written by a psychic medium and talking about like connecting, looking for signs from your like loved ones that have passed on or from your spirit guides who are, what she says, not your loved ones, because these are people who have contracted with you in the spirit realm to be your guide while you're on Earth, and so they aren't your loved ones.
So you don't know them? Does that kind of mean you don't know who they are?
You know your spirit knows who they are, but you don't know who they are because your mortal self doesn't know who they are.
So someone perhaps that was selected before you were born, by you or by someone else.
Yes. Well, no, that's the whole idea, was they were, you and them entered into a contract with each other. They're like, I'm going to be your spirit guide while you're on Earth. I'm going to give you signs or help you, you know. One sign that she said is very common is the rainbow. And then it's extra special if there's a double rainbow. But I was thinking, like, if you can receive a sign from the other side and it can be a rainbow, then what does that mean when the idea that God sends the rainbow to tell us that there's not going to be a flood anymore after Noah's Ark? And so, like, can it be God's sign that there's not going to be a flood and a sign to you personally from your loved ones on the other side?
The problem is that rainbows are scientific, and an angel can't just put a rainbow in a sunny sky with no moisture. That's never going to happen.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's the scientific way to...
So it's scientific, and so that's why Noah's flood rainbow has to be scientific as well. I heard talking about it recently. It was Jordan Peterson mentioned it. All of the moisture around the Earth must have been located really close because everything was watered immediately. And so there was fog, but there was not clouds. There was not vapor up in the stratosphere. So as soon as the flood came and they turned it all to water and then it got moisture in the stratosphere and created clouds. So my supposition, and I think the supposition he was saying, is clouds didn't exist until the rainbow existed, until the flood was. They gathered the flood waters in one place and then let it evaporate into the stratosphere.
Like no clouds at all before Noah's flood?
There were no clouds. Yeah, before the flood.
Like no rain?
There couldn't have been no rain, right? Because it was fog on the ground. It just automatically watered everything. So the moisture stayed close to the ground. And maybe that's why they lived longer too, because they were living in a cloud of water that kept them moisturized completely. Who knows? That wasn't discussed, but in order for the sun to be out there and a rainbow not to appear, there had to be no moisture in the stratosphere.
Yeah. So no rainbows and no clouds before Noah's flood.
And then after the flood, when it evaporated, the water went up. And since it went up, then it started raining, and it rained for 40 days and 40 nights. Maybe that rain just came from yeah, that's odd how they put that too.
Yeah.
Perhaps the ground fogs did rain. You know, you had rain, but it just didn't stop.
It was very low. It was always, your feet were always wet.
Yeah.
And your head was always dry.
Yeah.
Does that ring true with anything in the scriptures?
I don't know. People couldn't see their feet. No, I don't know anything like that.
Okay, so then it doesn't make sense to you that a sign from the other side would be a rainbow.
A rainbow can't be a sign.
No, Okay.
because rainbow is scientific. It's too scientific.
What could be a sign?
Serendipitous events. People can say things. You can have confirmations with other people saying things that are a sign. Now I saw 3 black cats or something. Those can be signs. Random events can be signs. But a rainbow is definitely not random.
Yeah.
A thunderclap is, lightning. Lightning can happen from a clear sky. It's just an electrical impulse, so you don't necessarily have to have clouds to have lightning.
Yeah, she says in the book that the spirits on the other side can manipulate electricity and light and energy, maybe something else that I'm not thinking of, but electricity, a thunderclap, a random thunderclap would be an electrical anomaly.
If they could throw an electric ball, a lightning ball, that probably happens sometimes. Usually it's connecting forces, the negative and positive, from the earth to something.
There you go.
So I'm suspect of her using rainbows in her description.
Yeah.
I'm not suspect of the idea. The concept makes sense. There's spiritual beings. We know that there is a spiritual part of the world. It's just, I don't think they stretch the rainbows, the double rainbows. There are no leprechauns.
Okay. Well, on to our real topic. What else do you want to talk about?
A conversation of the spirit, why the ethereal world, or potential people helping us. We could talk about that.
Okay.
Is it not feasible? She's promoting it's feasible, but says there are signs.
Yeah.
Did you read the whole book, or?
No, I'm all the way through it. I am all the way through it. I listened to it. I listened to the audiobook.
Okay. And what's it called again?
Signs, The Secret Language of the Universe by Laura Lynn Jackson. Secret, though. Is it secret?
So she discovered it. That means it was discovered.
She discovered it for herself, and she's the reason for her writing the book is to tell people that they can also have this connection, or they can see the signs, the signals that the spirit side is sending them.
That they can confirm also that this secret is true. The other book, The Secret, it's the same secret. What's the thing it's called?
The law of attraction?
I mean, she's saying that you can tell that secret language of the universe is really the secret thing. Things are combining to your help, to your good.
Yeah. And never to your bad for some reason. That's another thing I've wondered is...
Never to your bad. Yeah.
Why are all of the signs pro me and pro you and never...
Pro good.
Yeah, pro good and not
and
evil.
never trying to tear down people, because trees are really the thing that are supposed to be living on this planet, not people.
Right.
Let's get rid of all the people. What was that? Manifest, the show they did. So Romans 8:28, all things work together for good to them who believe. Something like that.
And all things work together for bad to them who don't believe?
I don't even know that that's the corollary. That would make sense, wouldn't it?
Yeah. I mean, without evil, there is no good. So there must be that other side.
All who don't believe. So if you don't believe in the sun is going to curse you. You'll get sunburned instead of just enjoying the warmth. All things work together for good. So, and that's just the way it was phrased there. The secret, though, says the law of attraction. Well, you can attract, in the law of attraction, you can attract evil to you as well. You can cycle downward. So the point of that story and that philosophy is to think good thoughts, because you are what you think about. That's the greatest secret from Earl Nightingale, is you are what you think about. So it's the greatest secret. That's what he said. You say, keep your thoughts in a manner that you're going to want to be that person. Don't continually think that I'm sick, I feel bad, I'm horrible at this, I can't do this. Technology is my game. If you're always in that line, you represent that. You're going to be sick. You're going to be not adept at anything because you don't think you are. But if you think you are, you can become.
Okay. Did he write a book?
I think it's called The Greatest Secret. Let me get it. Cassette tapes. It was in that arena.
Was it an Amway thing?
Before Amway. It was before Amway. From 1950s to 56. 50 to 56. He ran the program. He died in 89, born in 21. But there's still plenty of YouTube videos on this idea. Audiobooks and practice. Nightingale Conant Corporation. Yes, Nightingale Conant, and that's still, I guess it's still there.
Huh.
So Lead the Field, The Strangest Secret, Secret Advantage. There's quite a few. The Strangest Secret. Maybe that's what it is instead of what did I say it was just a minute ago?
I don't remember.
Yeah, whatever it was. It's recorded there. But it's actually The Greatest Secret, maybe is what I said, but it's The Strangest Secret. He said the answer to that, because I listened to this thing when I was 15 or 18 or something, but you can buy it for $39.95 on CD or digital download. So it's still selling at The Strangest Secret. And the key is what you think about. Some of his other things are think for an hour a day, it'll change your life if you think for an hour a day.
That's kind of like meditation.
Purposeful thinking, just purposeful, do something. And maybe that has to do with all these other secrets too, the law of attraction. Think about what you want to attract. It's going to bring it to you. Think about the signs.
If you spend some time focusing.
Focus on anything you want. That's Earl Nightingale's statement. Anything you want, you can attract it to you. So that's the greatest secret. Greatest secret is what I used before. The Strangest Secret. And then it was rolled to The Secret from whoever wrote that. So I don't know that Earl Nightingale ever wrote a book, but he has all the audios out there. And it's the audio works of Earl Nightingale.
Okay.
The Strangest Secret. It's a book by Earl Nightingale. Yeah, so they did put it in book form. So all of this, the universe, the secret language of the universe. So Orlin Jackson feels that she figured out how to break the code of understanding how the universe is helping you, benefiting you.
I wouldn't say that she feels like she figured it out. She feels like this is a universal truth, and she's just sharing her perspective on how we can all access it.
What's another thing besides rainbows? Because I can't rely on rainbows.
Yeah. So the idea is that you decide what would qualify as a sign, and then you just tell
the universe to use that.
Tell the universe, yeah, or your specific
move
loved
this
one.
Pencil.
It's not move this or do that. It's like, show me pink elephants, and then I will know that that's you and not just whatever, And then so she gives stories about someone who requested pink elephants, and they saw it like 3 times in one day, like completely random occurrences, and they were in a place that doesn't make sense that there would be pink elephants, but like there they are, images of it or logos or something like that.
Pink elephants are used in Indian art. They have been used. I mean, you can see them periodically, but not normally.
If you're in India.
Yeah, or if you're in a mall or you're walking on the street.
Yeah. So there's like specific birds that a lot of the book is accounts of people's experiences, testimonies, I guess you could say.
Now, are they testing it? Are the stories about how someone tested this and it proved to be true?
I think so. I think a lot of them are like, this is the test. This is what I decided the sign should be, and this is the result. Like I started seeing them.
This is really scary. Then this is the thing I've been worried about in the last
100 years,
20 years, maybe. About the last 150 years of my life, I've been concerned about this.
Wait, let me see if I remember. I remember you saying the thing you were scared of is that there's someone watching you.
Right, that they're watching you. So if you can identify pink elephants is what I want to do. And even if you don't say it, if you're thinking it, then they can see your thoughts. If you say it out loud, we talk about prayer, you have to say that out loud. I don't know why.
Yeah. So this you don't even have to say out loud because...
So you don't say it out loud and they're watching you and they're connected to you. You've got these spiritual, not spiritual. What do you call them?
Yeah, your loved ones and your spirit guides.
Spirit guides. So your spirit guide is watching every move you make and trying to give you a sign. So that is scary. I mean, there is no privacy.
There is no privacy.
Zero privacy.
Yes.
In this world, because there's all kinds of angels there to help you.
Well.
And apparently not to hinder you.
I feel like
or kill you.
Mainstream Christians also believe that there's no privacy because Jesus is always watching. You know that sticker where they have Jesus like peeking around the corner says, "I saw that." That's a representation of a literal belief. Of course, Jesus sees everything. Like he's probably looking away when you go to the bathroom, but he's there. He's watching you.
Why would he look away? You don't look away when your dog goes to the bathroom.
No.
You're watching it to make sure he doesn't step in it, and then you can pick it up.
Right. You've got to make sure that they don't step in it while they're walking around.
It's not an issue for a dog. Why is it an issue for people? I mean, we're just the dogs. But we can go on so many tangents.
Why would it be an issue for humans? That's a good question. It's
Right,
like, why
to worry
would
about
we
being seen.
want privacy from an omniscient being? Wait, so define omnipotent and omniscience and omnipresence for me.
That's another tangent.
We can throw it in here. We have time.
Some person or being, spiritual assistant who knows everything is omniscient.
Okay.
So omniscient is to know it. Omnipresent is that he is everywhere. You can't go around a corner and hide from him. You can't crawl into a spider hole in the ground and be unseen. So omnipresent is in that spider hole in the ground, behind the trees.
He's always there. He's with us.
Yeah. And then omniscience, omnipresence.
Omnipotent.
Omnipotent. He's all powerful. That's what that is.
Oh.
That he can strike you down with a lightning bolt in a second, or he can move you out of the way of a car or a train.
He can break the laws of the universe.
Well, he can use physics in ways we don't understand.
Okay.
Got to just say it that way. It's magic. I don't know, because it's stated a God, the universe can't break its own rules, but we don't know those rules.
Right.
We can't. If we're trying to define them, we're trying to find them out. Just like Laura Jackson is trying to identify, here's some keys that she's seen, and here's some tests that have been done. So she wrote the book about it. We should pay attention to these things.
Yeah.
So my fear, if they are watching all the time and you give a silly recommendation, I want to see the Pink Panther, or, a pink elephant, just show that to me 3 times and I'll know you're there.
Yeah.
And so you just go through your day, but there had to be some purpose. Why would you ask for something like that? Why would you need heaven's help?
Well, people usually go to a medium because they're distressed. They don't pay that money. I looked it up yesterday, and there's a medium here in northern Utah that I could employ for a minute, for actually 90 minutes, but it's $700.
$700 for 90 minutes, yeah.
And so if I was desperate enough, if I was having a bad enough time, then maybe I would pay that. So the people that go to the medium for help and are looking for signs, it's a request for comfort. And then once they know that they can receive signs and they're seeing them and they feel comforted, then they have that gate open and they're receiving signs regularly now, and they can say, okay, I have a decision coming up. Show me a sign if what I'm feeling like I want to do is the right thing to do. Or, it's kind of like a prayer connection, except with your loved ones instead of with your God.
Yeah, kind of like we got that from Braveheart. The Scottish guy, they were in Scotland. The Irish guy was always talking to his gods, to his people. He says, well, God tells me I'm going to be fine, but you're not. He says some other flowery way, I think. I don't know. But, before you go to war, you ask the gods, which way are your spirit guides? Which way am I supposed to fight this? How do I do this so we succeed? Are we going to succeed or are we going to fail first? And in order to succeed, how do we proceed? So with that war, if you have a question, you're going to question what you're going to do, what help you can receive in order to get it done. And we all have those questions. If you're running a business, you need to know what avenues to walk down, which marketing system to sign up for, or which signs to put out front, or which ad to write on your internet ad, what language to use in it.
Right.
Which target audience should I really be heading after? All those questions, they're not omniscient. If you were omniscient, you would do exactly the right thing and get exactly the success that you wanted. And so if you have an omniscient source, you can request and say, tell me everything I need to know about taking my next steps in business so that we get to the $20 million mark that we're targeting quickly. I want to do it in 3 months. So in 3 months, make sure I'm on the right path for that.
Yeah. A lot of people that consider themselves very spiritual, I suppose, would feel like they have a connection to the other side strong enough that they could receive instruction for their life just like that.
And that they do receive it. that they
And that they do receive
yeah.
it.
So
Yes.
their testimony is like in this book that I searched. Here's the signs. They could identify their testimony of the signs they received too. You know, it wasn't necessarily 3 cats that crossed my path on a day and that told me what to do. It was the thought came to my mind, and this is generally how it happens. This is how the apostles now are describing it. Elder Bednar specifically saying, you know, it doesn't matter whether it came to you in a flesh, and Elder Holland also talking about that. If it's good and if it benefits you or benefits humankind, if it's a positive, good, positive thing and it works and you thought it, who cares if it's you that thought it or the spirit that gave it to you? Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
We're worrying about where the voice came from or how it sounded. I've got a friend here in town that, well, he passed away, but
Yeah.
he always said, you know, it's in my own voice. I hear the Savior talking to me and it comes in my own voice. But after a while, it changed to his voice and I could tell it was his voice. And so he could even in his testimony strictly identify when Jesus Christ was talking to him individually.
Because it wasn't his voice anymore. It was
Yeah.
Jesus Christ's voice.
Right. And it gave him words and things to think about. But, you know, it's just like your words, you know, your questions, omnipresence and the omni words.
Yeah.
Was that impressed to you by your spiritual guide to think about those things? Or is it just a thought that came to your mind? I'd like to really identify what those 3 are. It doesn't matter. Your spirit guide did help you.
Yeah. I mean, I don't imagine that I could know for sure whether it came out of my mind or whether it was given to me from a supernatural being.
Right. A spiritual guide or inspiration or intuition or revelation. All those things are just, you're finding them. It's a new thought, like the strangest secret or the greatest secret. I think I'd rather call it the greatest secret, but it's the strangest secret, the way he put it out. Just remembering that, it changes the way you think about the rest of your life.
Yeah.
And perhaps Earl Nightingale got that from his spirit guide. It's why it made so much sense and why it's become a classic. So that's a question. Our classic works all, well, Jordan Peterson talks about the archetypical stories. They're classics because they're archetypical, because they're everywhere, and they're telling the same story that the universe is trying to teach all of us in different ways. The universe being the omnipresent, omniscient God that's pushing us, guiding us, leading us in different paths to the same end.
Yeah. So, how comfortable are you with the universe knowing everything and seeing everything? Because we started out with you being afraid that there is no privacy, but now it sounds like you're speaking very reverently about this whole idea and you're okay with it again.
Why would anyone need privacy? You're okay with it if you're on God's side, I guess, or if God's on your side. It doesn't matter. You know, if the omniscient one is to your benefit, if the omniscient one is to your hurt and damages you, and you can't do what you want to do, you're living a life of misery. That's the satanic idea. So Satan was cast out, and he's miserable, and he wants everyone to be miserable like unto himself, which is, how do you live that way? No one wants to be in misery.
Yeah, and you're only in misery if you are doing evil, if you are doing the wrong thing.
I wanted to discuss that at some point. The misery, that'd be the only reason. So let me see if I can introduce it the right way here. The only reason that you would want privacy from the general is if you're privacy from the omniscient, from the universe, is if you're doing something that is contrary to what you believe or understand is the right way of the universe. If you're operating contrary, then you're turning into yourself. You're saying, I want to do this thing for me. So that's the pleasure seeking, perhaps, saying this is just for me. I don't want it to share it with anyone. I don't want anyone else to see it. I don't want anyone else to know that I can fly. I'm just going to fly for me, or whatever the thing is. So if you just do that, then that's a miserable condition. And I got this from Jordan Peterson. He talked about that at one point. Self-consciousness is misery. So if you're turning everything that you're doing into yourself, just being yourself, that's a miserable position. That's the only miserable position there is. Thinking you're alone, trying to be an island.
So misery doesn't come because you want to be an island. It becomes because you are an island.
Well, not because I think it's backwards. I think you just said that backwards.
Oh, okay.
It's not because you are an island. You weren't made miserable by someone. You're an island, so you're a miserable person. No, you make yourself miserable by wanting to become an island, by wanting to disassociate, wanting to be a hermit, and just all self-conscious about everything. Self-conscious, wanting privacy, wanting to hide, wanting no one to see you.
And so then you're miserable because of that desire.
That's what creates misery. I believe, I'm thinking that misery is self-inflicted, because no omniscient, the way she wrote the book, even in Science, the Language of the Universe, she's not saying the universe wants you to be hurting or miserable or upset. The universe and your spirit guides want you to do things right, do it the right way, and find success and happiness and joy. They want to feed you joy. They don't want to feed you misery. No description of the universe says the universe wants to beat you down and kill you. Loki is just one of the persons in the god. He's the one that wants to kill people, but it's because he wants all the power. He's self-centered. And you got, who's the other guy that is not self-centered? Thor with the hammer.
Right.
He's wanting to work with everybody and take care of everybody. And so that's the miserable. If you're watching the universe and caring for the universe and watching for it to help you, you'll realize it always helps you. And I think that may be the point of that science book, is that you'll notice no matter what it is that you ask for, it's always going to be advancing you positively. It will never drop you negatively.
And we're talking about the universe in a omniscient kind of way, because like some maybe scientists would say that the universe is a hostile environment and you really have to fight to survive. And it's kind of shocking that we've lasted as long as we have, considering all of the things that are against us physically.
Right. How fragile we actually are.
Yeah.
As a planet. If we were, I don't know, you could probably say if we were 5 degrees further away from the sun, we probably wouldn't work.
It wouldn't, yeah.
5 miles further away, maybe. Not even very far.
Yeah,
we're in
a very small distance. Whatever the distance actually would have to be, it is kind of small location. Considering the scale, the whole measurement.
Yeah, so the universe, the physical universe that we see out there and we send telescopes to watch and record and listen to, all of that, it's dangerous. I mean, Planet X or the comet that's heading towards us the next 600 years sometime, or Betelgeuse when it explodes in the next 600 years.
Yeah.
Or exploded. Like anything out there, it could wipe this planet out. Too many gamma rays from Betelgeuse will wipe the planet out and we no longer can live here.
Right.
So there's something that's holding this together on its feather edge or pinpoint, or a very precarious stance that we're in, but we're all in it and the universe is in it. You know, you look at a red giant that explodes or goes, what do they call that when a star explodes? A supernova?
Yeah, probably.
When something goes supernova, it takes out everything within 100 light years of itself. I mean, those clouds that are out there, the supernovas that they have, was the last one was like in 1,000 years ago. One exploded they could identify.
Yeah.
It's taken everything out in its neighborhood. Its whole block, it's done.
And our star is dying. We know that. Our sun.
The sun.
And it will die someday, and everything will be gone in this solar system.
It's going to red giant itself, and it's going to take out everything up to Jupiter. The whole solar system will disappear. Will be enveloped in the cloud that's created by the explosion of the sun.
Yeah. But the theory is that humanity will have killed itself off before that even happens. So we don't even have to worry about that.
Because you're thinking billions of years, and light years away, billions of light years.
There will be other species as the dominant intelligent species on the earth, hypothetically, because, I know that, okay, so here's another weird question for you. Can the intelligences that inhabit our human bodies, can they inhabit other types of bodies? Like, if humanity dies and another species is the dominant species of the planet, could that have spiritual intelligences in it, that species? And that's, how literal is this image of God idea? Like, God is a human form, and so that's just how we all are.
Yeah, I think that's an omniscience question, if it knows. So what's the theory that says we evolved evolution, theory of evolution, and that we're going to evolve, and when we die out, something else like we took over from the dinosaurs, and there's going to be the mice, we're going to do the next thing, and they'll become conscious, and whatever it moves to, whatever being it is. You have that theory that we're rolling in the last hundreds, billions of years, and this is just a continuing cycle that is a cycle. It's not a cycle, it's the image of God statement is that it was started at a time, and it was started, has a purpose. When it ends, it will end in, the 12th article of faith, and in paradisiacal glory for the earth. And the earth is going to be a sea of glass and the celestial kingdom. So if that's true, then this earth just graduates to that, and the sun doesn't blow up, or the earth gets transformed somewhere else, transported to Kolob in the center of the Milky Way galaxy. So many other things that are happening. We see the regular rotation of the planet and the galaxy right now, and that's all we see. And we see clouds in the skies, but we don't see the time when clouds weren't in the skies because there were no rainbows. When rainbows were a shock to people, they're not a shock to us.
Because we see them all the time.
We know how the prism concept works and how it creates itself, how that's made. It's obvious how that's made. Prisms exist. Maybe light doesn't always have to break up through prisms like that, though. Maybe light can do other things that we don't know yet. That's just the expansion to omniscience. So we can't judge what's going to happen. And the question was, can the intelligences, let's say there are intelligences that are out there, billions and billions of them, that need a body to live in. The Hindu religion solved that by saying it's just reincarnation. There's probably only 100 of them. Or that video, the egg, is still very interesting concept. It's just one. There's just one intelligence out there, and it's floating around in all of these people. Instead
of billions of intelligences, just one.
There's billions of matter down there that you are the one, and the conversation between that I is me talking to me, because it's the only one there. This whole universe is for the one concept, the one God that is you. So it's just as feasible. That's just as feasible as saying there are billions of intelligence that have to come down and inhabit these beings and have a chance in a probationary world. So the question that I thought you were going to go to, that I would still think is true, is trees have a spirit too, and grass and ants. And there's an intelligence in those ants that came from somewhere. They're not just machines. I can make a machine, but we can't make grass. We can't make an ant. On this earth, we can't create those things that are automatically here. DNA. We can see it and somewhat know it's a helix, but we don't know really how to create it or how it works.
Is there a tree god and an ant god?
That'd be an interesting idea.
Well, yeah. Because...
So that's saying in their realm, in their sphere, so by the words they use in the Bible, everything operates in its own sphere and it's working. Animals and plants are in their own sphere. They're in their own world. And maybe the plants do have a language that's secret that only they know, that they're talking to each other. Well, we're just these beings floating around them. They're the ones that are in the true world.
This is their world, not ours.
Yeah. And if these people would stop blowing us up, we could actually do stuff. They're both clearing this land, look, we're going to grow up anyway. We'll break up their cement. If they do a Chernobyl on the place and ruin it within 50 years, we'll grow back and we'll take it over again, which is what they've done.
Yeah. I read someone's opinion that if they stopped pruning the blackberry bushes in Seattle, in 5 years, you wouldn't be able to find Seattle for the blackberry bushes.
Probably.
Yeah. I was just up there a couple weekends ago, and there were a lot of blackberry bushes around. Like, it's something, not in the city, but, out.
Yeah, since it's always moist, so you've got the ocean breeze and you're always moist, everything's going to grow. And you've got to stop the things from growing that are going to take over. Just like these goji plants out in my backyard. If that's what they are, stickery bushes, they've grown. I mean, they've probably gotten 5 times larger area right now than they had when I bought the place.
Huh.
5 years, 6 years, so they'll double every year, perhaps. So I've got to take my shovel and dig out their roots so that they don't grow anymore. I don't want them to expand.
Yeah, they're going to whether you want it or not. Their plant god is telling them, this is what you're meant to do.
And you got to take over that land, their success, and then it's being beat by us. So is there, with that concept, is there someone that's trying to kill us? That's human beings, humankind, someone that doesn't want us to expand too far and will pare us back by putting a disease out there besides ourselves.
And they keep throwing this thing that's trying to eradicate us because we're vermin and pests in their universe. They keep throwing what are the asteroids and comets towards us and keep barely missing us. One of these days they're gonna make a hit. They'll be like, finally.
And they hit it a while ago and made the dinosaurs drop out. They said, now we've got that figured out.
We've got that taken care of.
That place won't bother us anymore. And the rabbits survived.
Yeah, well, and we're experiencing time at our own pace, but it really could be a lot different for other outside extraterrestrial beings, I guess.
Extraterrestrial just means outside of this earth.
Outside of this earth.
Out there, time is different. They've even proven that. I mean, at the top of the Eiffel Tower, time is different than at ground level.
Yeah, well, because that's spinning at a bit slower pace than down here, right?
Yeah, it's spinning, but calculating time, grading time universally, I don't know, I haven't really looked into it. There's different maps of how time really works in space because it's not the same. We can see light years, potentially see light years.
It's slower than us, right? Is that what the idea is?
That time slows down out there?
I mean, I remember a Bill Nye the Science Guy episode where he said, you send one guy on a spaceship around the Earth, and when he comes back, his brother on the Earth has aged, but he hasn't, because time is, it's different. It's a different thing out there. The further away from time on Earth, it's not different for them, the person that went around.
Well, we don't have that. The space station, people go to the space station, they come back roughly the same. There's nothing wrong with that.
It's not enough.
But if we start sending people to Mars and they're there for 7 years and they come back, maybe they're not 7 years older.
Yeah. Oh, Interstellar. That's the other thing is they go and they're on this planet that nearly kills them all, and then they come back and the guy on the space station has aged like 14 years or something, and it was only an hour to them down on that planet.
Or like the idea of contact. You want to take a ride, and she was there. Fell from that thing she was in.
Yeah.
Jodie Foster, right? Fell from 30 feet in the air to the ground, and that was the only time on Earth. But she had 18 hours worth of video that she lived through in that 30-second drop.
Yeah. So, we understand the concept of time being different depending on where you are relative to another person. Like, time for me at a different elevation on the Earth is just slightly different than time for someone at sea level, maybe just the very slightest, or time for someone on Pluto would be different relative to someone that would be on the sun. You have to find the center point of what is time different for.
See, the atomic clock, atomic time is how many pulses that the atom has. But that's an atom on Earth. An atom on Pluto would maybe operate differently, probably operate differently.
Yeah. Well, and maybe it doesn't operate differently. It just appears to operate differently because of its location. And you have to have something to relate it to see the difference. Because if you're relating it to itself, then there is no difference. Like, time for me will always pass however it does for me. But maybe that's what the atomic time is that's the thing that you can see. You can say this is the true passage of time.
A true second. 20,000 flashes of an atom is 1 second. I don't know how many there are. Something like that.
And then you can compare to that and see how time passes differently for everything compared to that atomic time as perspective.
So it depends on where you're sitting.
It depends on where you're sitting.
And to identify this back to what we're talking about, spirit guides, from the spiritual realm, what do they think they're doing? Let's say we made that agreement with someone before we came to Earth, and now we're on Earth, and we can connect with our spirit guide who is built to help us succeed as best we can through this Earth. Is their only job to help one person? Or maybe they made an agreement with 10 people. I mean, as a guardian angel, is that all they do? Would that be boring?
Wouldn't that be boring? One person. I'm going to follow this one guy.
And I'm trying to help him, but he's never asking the questions. I'm willing to give him pink elephants or pink panthers or whatever he wants, but he's never asking. So if he never asks, I just have to sit here on call, but never get to work.
Yeah. So if we're talking about time passing, though, if we're the point of time to compare with, and then potentially they have a physical form further away from us, their time is passing very slowly compared to us, or our time is passing very quickly compared to them. So maybe they're only our spirit guide for, that blip of time on their timeline because it just happens so quickly. Or maybe it's only a week, or what do they say in the scriptures? Like 1,000 years is one day. What is it?
Yeah. 1 day to 1,000 years, or you hear the quip, if you die, it's just a couple minutes, you'll see all your loved ones again, though it'll be 30 years for them.
Yeah.
We'll see in a couple minutes.
So maybe it's not a very boring thing to be a spirit guide because you're a spirit guide for a different person every week.
Every week?
Every day. Every hour.
Yeah.
I don't know.
If it's 1,000 years per 1 day, and so they're living a day, and there's how many, 30, 60 years. So there's 10, 15, 20 of them in a day. So you've got 10 minutes, 5 minutes on each person. Or
yeah.
What? No, some 5 minutes, you got 5 hours on a person.
If there's 20 people.
24 hours. Yeah, about an hour per person. They're for their whole life, and they need something. Say it's 3:00 in the morning. This guy is asking way early. So.
Yeah, I mean, we're trying to make sense of it all scientifically because it has to fit in the laws of the universe, right? And so we know some of the laws of the universe, and so therefore it's got to fit, right?
Well, we think it has to fit. We're trying to create it so that it fits. Yeah.
Yeah, we're molding it so it fits in our box.
Yeah, or we're trying to understand the bigger box. That's all we can do is try to understand.
Yeah.
And everything seems to be relational. It all relates, and it's all relative. Like the theory is that it's reliable. So since it's reliable enough, we believe we have the right rules, right law.
Right. But rainbows can't be signs because that's impossible to manipulate, right?
It's impossible to manipulate without the right conditions. So if they're going to do that, if a spirit being is going to do that, they're going to have to put the clouds there. And if they're going to do it in an instant, it means clouds just instantly appear and the sun gets to the right position on the horizon immediately.
Yeah.
They can't do it. You can't do it at midnight. You can't create a rainbow at midnight. Never can you do that on the dark side of the planet.
Yeah,
it will never happen.
Well, it's not necessarily a natural rainbow, though, because it could be like a rainbow drawing or a shining through prism.
Okay, so like you're talking about pink elephants. You're never going to see a pink elephant because they don't exist, but they're all over the place.
Yeah.
And if you try not to think about them, you have to think about them. And they always have tutus on, no matter what you do. So that's the whole joke about pink elephants. So yeah, if you open up to not physical, and that's really what we're talking about too, right? The spirit guide is an ethereal, spiritual thing, something that you can't contain in a box. So a rainbow is a rainbow flag, seeing a rainbow. You know, if you consider
Yes.
that, then yeah, it can happen anywhere, anytime.
Yeah.
That's just as random.
So a rainbow is too common. What would you pick as your sign if you were to test it and choose someone like your grandpa?
Something I believe I would never see.
Yeah. If you picked your favorite grandpa and you put out emotionally to him, if you show me this, then I will know it's you communicating to me. Because the lady in the signs book says these people are always trying to reach out, like all the time. They always want to. They're not just sitting around not interested in your life. And so if you want your grandpa to reach out to you in a specific way, and it would have to be rare enough that you know you're not going to see it just every day. Probably be weird if you saw it even occasionally. What would it be?
A sonic boom. That's what I would choose. Because I really loved those when I was a kid, and they don't happen anymore because the FAA outruled them out. You can't
So
fly
it's illegal.
supersonic.
You're
It's
choosing
illegal now.
something that they're not even able
Correct.
to do.
Right. And so if it's going to happen, but then Paul Harvey said that in 2011 or 2001, the towers, when the jets over Chicago, there was a double sonic boom because the jets had to go supersonic to get to Pennsylvania that quickly. So they can do it still happens. Anyone can do it. It's just they're not able to. So a rogue airline pilot could go supersonic. He could go above the 900 miles an hour, the speed of sound, whatever that is.
Yeah. And it would have to happen in your wherever you are in order for it to
it'd have
count,
to happen
right?
with me. Or if it's that clap, that speed could just be the wind. You could create that. A sonic boom can happen anytime. It usually has to have something flying. A meteor will create a sonic boom when it enters the atmosphere. So it could be a meteor that in the middle of the day that you're never going to see, but it's a small pea-sized thing that just creates a boom, and then you wonder what was that. So if I were to select something, I'd select a sonic boom. So the test is to have Grandpa Hidalgo create a sonic boom in my environment within the next 4 days or something. You give him a time frame?
4 days. She did say when she was talking about manifesting.
Yeah.
She said, when you're writing down, you write down what you're manifesting and you give it a timeline. But I don't know if you can add a timeline to the signs that you receive from your loved ones. I don't know.
When you're manifesting, you're giving a timeline. What does that mean? What's the difference in?
Like your, the secret, you're saying.
You're trying to attract certain things. You give yourself a timeline to attract it.
Yeah. And you say, and you write down like, I'm really grateful that I'm a millionaire and I reached that goal by the end of 2026. And so you write that down, and then somehow that gives your thing a timeline. Like I'm going to be that by the end of 2026.
So that's a long timeline, a year and a half. I think if the spirit guides are there, they could do it within right soon.
Right soon. I mean, it would make sense, right?
Yeah. How much do they need to really gather or go to the commissary and pick up all this stuff so they can create a sonic boom? No,
yeah.
He could snap his fingers. God could snap his fingers and it would create a sonic boom.
If he's omnipotent, yes.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the general conversation, we're talking about spiritual connections. Is that the same thing as ethereal? What is out of the ether?
Ethereal versus spiritual. They're synonyms.
Ethereal just seems it's way too delicate and light. It seems too perfect for this world. So a perfection beyond It's ethereal beauty.
I don't know.
Something beyond the earth. Yeah, celestially, heavenly, unworldly. It's just off of the terrestrial type plane. Ethereal is something out there. And so it's the same thing, spiritual, universal. Karma is an ethereal concept. It's something that's not ruled by cause and effect. It's a karmic effect.
Is it close to supernatural?
Supernatural would have to be blamed on that ethereal cause or effect, the supernatural effects, right?
Yeah.
Beyond natural, beyond cause and effect. Yeah. So magic that happens is really just someone operating where you don't know how they're doing it, and it becomes magic. So it's ethereal to you,
Outside of your understanding.
to your perspective, to your understanding and your perspective. But from the perspective of the magician that's operating it, it was easy because they did it within 10 seconds and whatever, or a millisecond, accomplished what seems impossible, what seems ethereal. So they're more omniscient in regard to what's going on than you are. They can see more.
Yeah.
Accomplish more.
And not necessarily omnipotent, not more powerful, because they're still operating. I mean, not necessarily all powerful, because they still have the laws of the universe.
Right. They know how they're doing it, and they do it, and it seems completely magical. And it is magic. But it's actually done.
Yeah. So, do you think that your grandpa could know enough to know how to make a sonic boom happen without being all powerful?
So that's a possibility. I'd have to assume that he did, but let's say he doesn't. Let's say, well, what is this? He's thinking that I can do sonic booms. I can get pictures to show up in front of him, or maybe I can get a video of a sonic boom, or I can do that.
Well, I mean, okay. So in the book, things like that count, like someone just mentioning something.
Yeah, if they say, you know what I'm missing? So it's, it'd be someone, a neighbor. So Judd would say, you know what I miss when I was a kid? Sonic booms.
Yeah.
Someone coming up with that within 4 days.
And that would
count.
That
would have to count. Okay, so sonic boom, if I use that in 4 days, we'll see if it ever comes up. And probably mom will mention it tomorrow.
You have to completely not tell anyone else.
Right.
I'm not going to mention it. I'm not going to make it happen.
You won't say anything. Okay, so mine is a sonic boom in 4 days. So it's your turn.
I've actually been thinking about what I would choose as a sign. I have a few people that I could request a sign from, and everything that I would request, everything that was like super meaningful for these people, feel like they're very common, like they're just everywhere.
Common.
And
things.
Is that because I'm seeing the signs already, or is it because I don't know.
No, because you're thinking of that person. So don't think of those people. Think of what you would like to see that's totally uncommon.
Yeah.
You're still thinking they're limited. So don't consider their limitations at all. It's like a genie. I want to say this, the genie that comes out and says, accept love. You can't make someone fall in love with you. Why not?
Why not?
Of course a genie can help someone fall in love with you. So your spiritual guide has to help someone fall in love with you. So
yeah. All right.
They're unlimited.
Have I shared with you the phenomenon of my birthday, though?
You have a phenomenon about your birthday.
Yeah. I mean, it's probably a pretty common birthday. I mean, it's 1 out of 366 birthdays that you could have.
Yeah.
A date, It's a few years ago, I saw my birthday as an expiration date on one of my favorite drink containers. And then ever since then, it's like 3 or 4 times a week that my birthday comes up in an article or on the TV, or I see it on the clock all the time. But like my birthday is a time of day that it would be easy to see it twice a day if I was looking at the clock,
you're usually awake during both of those times.
Right. But it comes up in books, and it comes up in the news, and it comes up on calendars. Like, here's all of the things that are like this series of concerts are happening for the whole year, and one of them is on my birthday, even if my birthday is on like a Monday, like not a weekend. I don't know.
Yeah.
And I always see my birthday when I'm at a cemetery, but that's pretty common too, because the cemetery is full of dates. Like every single headstone has 3 or 4 dates on them.
You see, in contrasting that story for you, I've never seen my birthday.
Really?
Ever. On a clock, on schedules. There's 2 people I know that have my same birthday, but I don't see it in random places. I've never seen it in random places. I was looking on my screens right now to try to look for my birthday. It doesn't happen.
Yeah.
And even the time of this conversation is not my birthday.
Nope.
There's so many things that aren't my birthday, but you're seeing it often enough that it seems to be an omen.
It seems to be a sign.
Reliable. A sign that's reliable.
Now that I'm telling you that, I am remembering a thought I had last night. I think seeing my name somewhere would be a pretty clear sign, I think, because my name is so uncommon that anytime I see it, it's spelled differently. So it'd have to be spelled the same way that I spell it.
Have to be the same spelling that you have it.
Yeah. And so that would be a pretty uncommon thing for me to come across. But how would having to work with a name be for the other side? Like, all right, we're going to have to go back in time and influence these people to name their kids this. So
that you can meet the 80-year-old that is the same spelling.
Right.
Yeah, no, it's got to be impossible.
It's got to be impossible.
In order to work. I mean, I know it's impossible for a sonic boom, but it's not going to happen. And it's impossible for you to run across that, even just to see it in print somewhere. I mean, you'll notice it.
Yeah.
Something will happen. Someone will write it in the sky with a airplane, or it'll be on a banner or on a billboard or something. So that works for your spirit guide to give you that name, give you your name with the correct spelling sometime in what time frame?
It has to be my first name too, because I just saw my middle name over there on my bookshelf. Yeah. So it's got to be my first name. My first name spelled the way I spell it, and it's got to be, well, I guess let's say 4 days. What is 4 days from now?
Within 4 days. So we're doing 4 days, and today is Wednesday.
Before the end of August 11th.
Sunday. So by Sunday afternoon, it's got to happen.
And then if this happens, then we will just accept that we're receiving signs, and then they can do it way more often than that. Every time they need to tell us something, then we know when I see that, it's a sign, right?
Well, no.
No?
Yeah. So you're saying if you're welcome to test it more. You opening the channel of communication. If that's a communication channel that you can identify, and it happened once, then we got to find a better way to use it. Right now, we're just kind of flippant in the way we're using it. So yeah, you have to find a better purpose for it. So if it does work, let's say it's a universal truth and it's going to occur, and we can prove it occurred once. That doesn't change your whole life. It changes your next step. Okay. Is all that changes.
The next right thing.
Right. Because you've already got your beliefs and your mores, and this is how the world works. It's starting to adjust the way the world works. That's how it would have to do to me. I'd have to frame that in my worldview. You have to frame it within your worldview. How could that have occurred? And let's do it again, but let's test it on something less flippant, less just fun. Let's try to accomplish something.
Okay.
Because there are things I'd really love to have that person do. And I wouldn't dare start with that thing.
Like what? Like, clear the trees out of my backyard for me.
I want 4 trees out there in the right places. I want to be sycamores. Just tomorrow. I'd like them there tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
No.
So you set a timeline.
Yeah. If you can do things, do that. I'm not going to wait 20 years for that tree to grow. Put it there. No, not anything like that. Well,
I mean, maybe.
No, the magic, and you know the hardest thing I'm dealing with now, it's the magic of love. How does that trip on and trip off?
Mm-hmm.
And trip it on for me. Just do something. trip love back on. I mean, functionally, everything's working, everything's operating. I can live this way forever, but it would be really cool if there were love involved in that. And the genie said they can't do that. So this spirit guide has to be able to do that. The universe has to be able to answer that question or that need, give a response. So I've said my final thing, but I don't dare put a timeline to that yet.
Yeah. Because what if it happens? Are you afraid of it actually happening?
Yeah. Well, what would life be like if it occurred?
What would it mean? I'm a little bit afraid of something like that happening because I tend to not believe in supernatural things. I tend to not want to believe in that. And so if it is shown to be possible, then it changes a lot of things.
Right. And with your worldview, with that view right there that you just stated, if this does work in 4 days, then you've got to work that out and what that means.
Yeah.
What that could possibly mean for you. And it's only makes sense to take your next step, not to go all the way to your big question. You might have a big question, a big thing that you'd like help doing, much bigger than putting trees out there, or maybe completely different than love. But there's something that you'd like to call on it to do, or them, or, the guide, the universe. And that's what, where we started that's why they wrote The Secret Language and The Secret and The Strangest Secret. All these things are that we are in control of all this if we just ask. And that's Christ's statement that knock and you'll receive, knock and it'll be opened unto you, seek and you'll find. So if you just put your mind to it and go forward, the universe will provide.
It will happen. No choice but to. Yeah.
And if we can identify there's no choice but to, and do these crazy things. So what happens if there's no sonic boom and your name does not exist in 4 days?
No, that's a good question.
Does that mean the universe is wrong?
Dead.
It's
dead.
Did it fail
There's
and
nothing
it's dead?
out there.
So now that's proof.
It's proof.
That can't really be proof that nothing's out there, but
at the same time, I'm afraid that's true as well.
That there's nothing out there.
Yeah.
Why would the universe care to give us this? The universe or our spirit guide care to give us this sign, and are they obligated to? Like I said, is it an obligation that they have to? Are they imprisoned by our whims and requests?
Oh.
Or do they have a choice?
It would make sense if they have a choice.
That's where with God, you talk about the will of God. Ask whatever, if it's right for you. And if it be right, you'll receive the answer. You can't know whether it's right or not, or if it's the will of God that you did that or not.
Yeah, maybe the answer is no, or maybe the answer is not right now.
That's too easy of a statement. I never like it when people talk about it that way. And I don't know how else to talk about it, but can your spirit guide be obligated to help you?
Like required?
How can you know what you can ask appropriately that you guaranteed an answer for? And you're guaranteed the signal, the sign will come. Guaranteed the sign will come.
Yeah, that's really frustrating to think about. How do I do this right? Have I drawn the star on my floor correctly? Do I have the right number of candles?
Yeah.
And have I touched the beads on my rosary enough, in the correct order, and said the right words? And that's frustrating to imagine that there is a right or a wrong way to request a sign from the other side.
Right. Is that evident in the physical world somewhere else? I mean, you have to do things in the right order. The legal system. If you don't file the correct forms, you're not going to be responded to.
Right.
In a legal idea, if you even filling out a form, if you miss a statement, then they reject the whole form. One question wasn't answered appropriately. They can reject it and throw it away, or reject it and send it back to you and say there was an error. They could tell you what the error was, or they could not tell you what the error was and say you just missed it. In this 5,000 question application, one of them's not right and it kicked it out. And so try again next year. And I guess in our world, you don't really know, well, like everyone driving on the street, you don't know that someone's not going to be in your lane when you go around that building, go around the corner and going 80 miles an hour. That's totally unreliable too.
Right.
That everyone obeys the traffic laws. So, and that's kind of where we started out. We're in this precarious, on this razor's edge, living our life. If we don't walk softly enough, we'll get sliced in two. And if we slide one way or the other, it just slices off half of us and we fall off and we can no longer walk. So you need their help. But even we as humans don't give people help that way.
Like, however, whenever you ask for it, then I will give it.
Yeah.
You kind of have to do it if I have the capacity or if I have the time, if I have the ability, then I will help. If I have the desire.
Perhaps. If I have the desire, if I feel like it today, or if I'm not sick. And we were going to have a conversation last week and that didn't happen because you weren't feeling well. Right? And that happens sometimes to people. Never happens to me, but
it never happens to
some
you.
people.
That one time, I remember you were sick. You were really, really sick that one time.
I did. There was a COVID thing that caught me one time, and I'm glad that passed. Never going to happen again, though. So I don't know that it means anything if this doesn't work. It's hard.
Well, now it's not going to work. If it doesn't mean anything, it's not going to do it. It's not even going to happen.
Oh, you have to believe? In order to make anything work? You have to believe that people are going to obey the traffic laws? For you to actually drive on the road, you have to believe in traffic laws. Yeah.
Yep. You do. You have to trust. You have to have faith that you're going to be able to succeed.
Stay on the right side, and everyone will be on the right side in their lane. There's only one instance. Well, the one instance, believe in Christ. Believe in the atonement, believe in that. So there's a belief and a faith in regard to those large spiritual promises. But any other belief, you believe in the spirit guides or in the Holy Ghost helping you, or your spirit guide helping you, or the universe helping you. That belief is, I don't know that there's ever a promise that says it won't work if you don't believe.
If some things happen, whether you believe it or not.
Right.
Is this something that fits in that category?
That you can use as a proof. And that's the only reason you'd look for a proof, is you're saying, I don't necessarily believe it, but I'm gonna say sonic boom 4 days, make it happen, and I'll start to believe. Alma talking about the seed, have a desire for it to grow, and then you see some positive sign. And that's Book of Mormon, scriptural. You get some evidence that the seed's growing and there's a sign. And now is your faith, do you still have faith? No, you have a certain knowledge. There's something moving. So we're looking from belief to a sign. By stating it, saying 4 days in a sonic boom, I'm stating a belief. I believe that if I see this, then I'll have evidence. I'll no longer have faith in a sonic boom within 4 days. That actually happened. Say that's a fact now. Based on that fact, what can I believe next?
Yeah.
So even though we don't have an expectation it's actually going to occur, if you have a belief, you don't have a perfect knowledge that in 4 days it's going to happen. You're going to have another belief. Serendipity, that's the reason that word exists, is because it's something that you didn't know the cause and effect of that occurred. It's just a coincidence. But coincidences are still part of the facts of life. And when they occur, you could say, what was my belief that caused that to occur? And I point that as a sign, identify it as a sign, and then try to repeat it. See if some universal guide is there helping. Do you agree that coincidences happen all the time? Serendipitous events?
Yeah, I think I do. And coincidence is a word that explains away that it happened.
Explains a way that it happened?
Explains away, it's like, oh yeah, that was just a coincidence. It's like that nobody intentionally made that happen, so therefore it's a coincidence.
what we're contemplating and what the secret and the signs and strangest secret identifies is, let's try to make some causality to that. Let's find out what caused it. And they're proposing that there's some universal forces in play.
Yes.
In all these coincidences.
Yes.
And so seek for a coincidence, identify it, say, this is the coincidence I want to see, that I don't think is going to happen. And as it happens, identify how that could have occurred and who you want to attribute it to. Grandpa or someone else or a spiritual guide or this thing in the universe, God. What do you attribute that coincidence to?
And if you attribute it to that, will you be uncovering the truth of where it actually came from, or will you just be hoping, wishing that it was that, and maybe you still don't know, right?
Well, that's still faith. If you still don't know, then you're still operating under faith and belief, faith in a belief system. But if you get proof that the belief system, so then you test it out again. Apparently she wrote the book. Laura wrote the book because she said, this is common enough. I've got enough evidence that I think this is a fact and you should test it. I'm writing the book because everyone should test it now.
Yeah.
There's enough evidence here that this happens and it's common. So make it common in your life.
Yeah.
And they wrote The Secret for that same purpose. It's common. It's going to happen. Just ask for it and it will be there.
And like, what's the harm? What's the harm in explaining it that way instead of completely?
And the harm, but Alma says exactly the same way. Have faith of a mustard seed and even let the desire work in your heart and then see what that does. And as that desire starts working, you'll start seeing benefits. And then you don't have faith in that benefit anymore. That actually worked. So I know that worked. And then repeat it. And keep building and building, and your faith grows. It's like one of those perpetual, the receding horizon, receding perfection, where you're talking about perfection or accomplishment.
Right.
When you accomplish something, you're seeking to accomplish something. You've accomplished that. Now that's in the past, it's history, but you've got another accomplishment that's building on top of that. Faith continues to recede from you. There's always something else to believe in, something else to push to, but you know that you can do this. If we can get that spirit guide to work for us, and we always know that can happen, there's always going to be something else that will draw us to ask for assistance.
Yeah.
Life is not just one question.
There's not just one goal to get to. Is there just, I don't know. That's a bigger question, is what's the purpose of life?
It's a progressive thing. Continues to progress, but if we can use this, so what we're questioning right now, what is the minute discussion we're having here? It's about whether you can rely on ethereal forces to assist you, whether you can request that assistance. Is that right?
Well, yeah. I mean, that's the question. Really, is can you have a connection, and can they help you? Can they affect your life?
Yeah. Can you have a connection is there a connection? Does a connection exist? And can you identify it? And can you request their assistance?
Yeah. And like, this is the same question as is there a God, and all of those things about a God. Like, it just widens it to, or brings it closer, maybe. I don't know. I've never met in my mortal existence someone that I could call God, but I have met my grandma and my kid, and so
yeah, and they can do things, and so you have a concept of who they are, and my grandfather and my dad even, you can identify who they are, and they existed.
I have an image of them in my mind that I can visualize, and that might make it easier to imagine that I'm being contacted by them, that I have a mental connection of some sort.
So what are we trying to do? We're trying to prove or to find connection with an ethereal realm, with someone that we believe. So we have a belief they moved on. And we have a belief also that in that realm, they can still see us and can help us.
Right.
Does she say that's possible? If someone that you knew moves on, you can ask for help from them in that book?
Yes. Yes. This one story was a lady, her husband passed on.
Yeah.
And then he communicated to her through the medium that he didn't want her to not get married again, and so he was going to find her a husband. And it took 4 years, and he found her a husband, and it was kind of neat how it was all connected, like the whole story of this person actually is, like, you could assume that her dead husband picked this guy for her, you know?
Yeah. And it was probably magical how they met, coincidence, serendipitous.
Yeah.
So you couldn't have designed that any better. So we want to find out how to use that. So that's the supposition. There's a belief. We have to go with the belief first and say, let's believe it enough to try it. We're going to try it. And then what Alma says about the test of faith is the faith. Then if it's realized, you feel the swelling in your breast and you feel the some success, then you're going to be able to know that success happened. That then becomes a fact. So we're trying to develop facts.
Yeah.
Historical facts in our life, moving forward on purpose. And say if we can identify that there's some connection to an ethereal plane, because we asked for their assistance, if that can come through as they're there, then with those facts, we can go on a common knowledge that, I know I can ask this more.
Yeah.
So let's say we get really adept at that. Well, let's say this works and we can, like Laura Jackson, we could write a book about it. How many people are going to believe us? How many people could you tell? Could you talk about it to anybody?
The people that want to believe will believe.
Yeah, the mediums, or those who believe in mediums.
Yeah.
How is it useful in ordinary life? I mean, ordinary life certainly has to be able to serve you, your business, your family life, your finances. You have to be able to solve normal problems with that.
Yeah. And maybe a problem will come up that you'll see that you could use some other side of the veil help with.
You need extra help. Yeah.
Something help from something that can see further than you.
Let me tell you the one situation that I wish I had help in when I was a kid. I've probably told you about this before. I said that it was starting a ditch or filling it. Had to put the tarp at the end of the ditch, and then the water was coming down. The pump was started. You got 20 minutes before it gets to the end of the ditch where you're starting the pipes.
Yeah.
You have 60 pipes to start. You got to start them all at once, and the ditch has to hold. The tarp washed out.
Oh no.
The end of the ditch. It happened to be a dirt ditch at the end. So it wasn't a solid tarp on cement that it's sealed. But I had to shovel to seal it in, and somehow it washed out, and all the water just disappeared. And so I wish someone else was there to help me get that tarp reset, because you can't go up and stop the pump for an hour and a half or something, wait for the water to drain out, and then start the pump up. And so I had to set it in with water flowing through it. And maybe there was some spirit guide help during that time, because I don't know how I got that water, that thing in the ditch, and necessarily, I threw a lot of dirt in it. You just keep going and hope this will work. I hope this will work.
Yeah.
And I was alone, and I looked around and I screamed for someone to help me. It's just because what else am I going to do? I'm like maybe 15 or 16 years old. I need help here.
Yeah.
And my dad did finally come, and he got there after it was all done and the pipes were started. And he saw that I dug up half the ditch bank, putting that in there. He says, "You moved a lot of dirt." I said, "Well, yeah, I had to get that set. It washed out." So maybe I did have the help there, if I could identify it that way, that something had to help that dirt get in the right place to stop a full stream of water with a tarp at the end of the ditch and a dirt.
Because it seems physically impossible for 16-year-old you to have done it.
Certainly possible that it wasn't available to happen, that couldn't happen. I didn't have enough pressure. I wasn't the tarp was probably 100 pounds. I mean, it was a big metal sheet by itself. I couldn't hardly pick it up. So you can put one into the ditch and then jam it down the other way, and then you have to just get it to seal.
Yeah.
So if it were a 10-pound tarp and a small ditch, you could push it down far enough. You could probably get it in the dirt enough that you could fill it up. But that was as big as I was, the tarp was. And yeah, I probably had outside help. I probably did get help at that time.
Huh.
Just not able to identify what it was.
Who was it that was helping you too? Like, what does it matter?
Well, it had to be my dad's dad.
that has to be.
I never knew him, but he died when I was 3. So he knew me, knew who I was. And if he was watching, he could have been there. He would have known how to solve that.
Yeah.
He was a farmer his whole life. And he probably had those issues and said, let me just hold this right here for you and then get the dirt right there and it'll work. I'll put my foot right in front of the dam for a minute. And then the dirt you throw on top of my foot will fill in that hole I just created.
Yeah.
So that could have happened. I mean, that's the only one thing I don't know how it occurred. Well, it's the first one. It's an interesting story.
Yeah. Interesting. That is interesting. And had you connected it to maybe you had help before?
No, I never thought of ethereal or extraterrestrial help in that event.
Yeah.
I just thought I don't know, it worked.
Uh-huh.
It worked, and I did everything I knew how to do. But it certainly is completely possible that everything I knew how to do wasn't enough. That thing was bigger than me. So in considering extraterrestrial help, that would be a time if one kid had a problem and I wasn't going to die. I don't know, I might have died. My dad might have hit me hard enough when he got back and said, what do you mean? You didn't do anything here? I dug up half the ditch bank. Why didn't you dig it all up? It's still not running. And he had to jump out of the truck and help me get it done. So he could have come and helped, but I got help from somewhere else. And I didn't just give up. I just kept going, doing everything I could do. And after all you can do, that's what they say, salvation happens. You can't do it yourself. Something else is there. There is a spiritual realm there to help. So maybe that could be identified there.
Yeah. If you did receive help, or now that you imagine that that's how it happened.
If that's possible, then maybe I can find that guy and say, help me again.
Help me again. Yeah. Does it increase the meaning of this experience? Does it make it more important? Or,
and we only identified him as grandpa earlier. He's my grandpa too.
Yeah, your other grandpa.
I was thinking of one and the other. So it's just the other grandpa. So maybe this conversation, your serendipitous request there, coincidence that you said grandpa, and then just trying to tell that story reminded me that Monroe needs to be identified. Maybe he is.
Yeah, it's a very interesting thing to talk about.
Now, so it's going to be a personal venture. I don't know if we'll talk about it. We probably will, but.
I mean, I really would like to know how a sonic boom happens for you in the next 4 days.
Yeah. So we'll talk about it. It'll still work, but it's more for art, and we can't use it for, what do they say, don't mock, for mockery. We don't want to laugh at it. We don't want to mock it or try to say that can't be. That's silly. Can't use a rainbow in that way.
Yeah.
So this isn't to try to mock or to test, but we're trying to experiment on this concept.
Yeah. Experiment and experience.
Experience it and see if we can create history. We see if we can create. So the point is to see if you can create facts in our future.
Yeah.
Something that we believe we'd like to see. Let it become a fact. And that's so we'll try it again. Recycle that. It could become a new skill that we hold.
Yeah. That would be interesting.
Hey.
Okay.
I think that's good.